Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch Some Shares with me, Kevin Britz, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's marketing leadership segment, marketing communications and expert and co-host, Craig Pagely. How you doing, Craig?
Kevin, yeah, good, thanks. It's good to be chatting again today, even though it feels like it was just sort of a few days ago that we had the last show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that said, I was going through all the the admin and filing of the shows and things like that, and I realized that today's our 171st show, 4 to go before another big milestone.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that we've done so many. It's it's one day when I think when we get to 250, we should do a bit of a compilation show and kind of look back at some of the interesting things that we have done.
I think even 200, that's in 25 weeks time, half a year's time. I think it'd be a good one to pull it all together and see some of those great highlights that have come through.
So, I mean, Craig, you mentioned that you might have two guests joining us for the show today. Did you manage to pull that off?
Yeah, unfortunately not, Kevin. I've been trying to coordinate 2 diaries, which has been a real challenge. The guys have been traveling as well. They were overseas. They're doing a lot of discussions on their book launch, and it was really about the book and the insights of the book that we're going to chat about. So Donald is busy working with his partner to try and plug it in for next week sometime. So fingers crossed, we'll have a good session with them still. You're gonna love the guys. They're incredibly fascinating and very humorous as well.
Fantastic. So what is in store for today's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, I want to pick up on a specific topic that emanated from last week's conversation. And as you recall, we covered the concept of social commerce as one of the 9 trends that are defying global consumer market. And I want to expand on this topic somewhat, but this time looking at the impact that influencers are having on social commerce and what we can actually learn from this topic. Some say it's still relevant, some say it's not, and I think it'll make for an interesting discussion today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one because I've heard some really interesting things around how it is shifting with influencer marketing. So to start off with, do influencers have the same level of relevance or importance that they may have about 3 or 4 years ago?
Kevin, yeah, good question to start off with, and one that's addressed in the article titled, "Is Influencer Marketing Dying?" The article was published to SeeingConnects.com's blog recently. And just to set some context, SeeingConnects is an influencer and social marketing agency that's focused on, to quote, connecting people and creating results. Nice positioning that. To quote from their website, the business develops insightful strategies and imaginative creative that delivers real results, making moments that stop people in their tracks, creating connections that stand the test of time by building relationships between brands and people. And I think this is really where their strength of focus is, because it is about that connection. Is not just about a digital ad, it is also about the person, the influencer. And the article opens by stating that influencer marketing does work, which is great, and that it's simple, that they can actually prove it in their proposition. So let's just see what it says. It goes on to note that the power of influencers to shape consumer behavior and drive is undeniable. Really another good affirmation there. However, the digital landscape is never without its controversies, and lately there's been a plethora of voices proclaiming the death of influencer marketing, that consumers now prioritize authentic reviews over paid influencer content. And that's a really important statement for us to reflect on as we go through the content today. But with data and proof of return on investment being such an important part of influencer marketing success, we know that there's certainly no sign of the industry slowing down. And definitely it's about, let's look at where this debate goes, Kevin.
I think what's interesting about the point is the emphasis on authentic reviews.
Yeah, yes.
Literally, like we don't want you to review something because you're being paid to do it, but rather review something because it's going to showcase what you really think.
And I love the fact that you picked that up, because it's a perfect segue into one of my first points here, where we note that there is a strong argument against influencer marketing, as many believe the practice is authentic. Consumers are becoming increasingly skeptical of sponsored content, rightly so, and are seeking more genuine brand connections, rightly so. But it's important to note that this does not signal the end of influencer marketing, Kevin, but maybe it's more a case of a shift in strategy, and it's about brands getting to understand what that shift looks like and how to work closer with their prospective contacts.
But what does it mean, though, Craig?
Yeah, Kevin, it's important for brands to collaborate with influencers where their respective values align with a proposition, and it feels less like a sales pitch and more like a trusted recommendation. And again, we've spoken about values and alignment of personal values, business values, brand values quite a bit the last while, and this really comes to the fore in the conversation where the proposition is more value aligned and feels less like a sales pitch and more like a trusted recommendation. So key is to find influencers who actually genuinely connect with the brands in question, allowing their real thoughts and feelings to shine through. And that's something that really has to be moderated and worked hard with from a brand owner point of view. Influencers are more than just individuals who can create content and push it out there across their strong follow channels. They are storytellers, Kevin. They are the trendsetters, and they definitely are trusted voices within their niche. So the ability to create more engaging and relatable content is important, and it gives them that unique advantage over traditional marketing methods when the influencer actually promotes a product or service, making sure that it feels like a friend's recommendation, family recommendation, rather than just a cold ad pushed out there into the digital space. And interestingly, a recent study by a platform called WP Engine noted that 82% of Gen Z consumers trust a company more when they use someone they know to promote it, meaning that they're more likely to purchase something if their favorite influencer is actually recommending it. So the importance for brand is to understand those connections with the prospective consumers and build their strategies around that.
And I think that's important to note, because when it started, I look at Kylie Jenner. She's a billionaire, and she started off with influencer marketing, but it's because it's become so contrived and it's so predictable on how they're going to share content. People have moved away from that, and they want to see Joe Soap, someone who actively just goes. And I mean, there was someone recently who, just some random person, nobody knows who he is, went and compared Amazon with Takealot, looking at their prices. And he literally put up there and put it out there and got millions of views based on, just a simple comparison, because Amazon had just kicked off their new store in South Africa, and he was literally going price item to price item, kind of going, well, this is what Amazon's selling it for, this is what Takealot's. And he's now known for bringing the attention to brands out there doing things like that. So
that's great. And again, to that point around the relatability, somebody that people can lean into, trust, and when you find that particular influencer and individual, you are going to get that unique advantage over those traditional methods, Given. But the strength of influencer marketing is that it's measurable, and that brands can actually track engagement. Not just can, they actually should. That's about click-through rates and then conversion metrics, all of it giving you that finite understanding of the effectiveness of your influencer. But this all helps brands being able to assess the real impact of their campaigns, and adopting a data-driven approach really allows this continuous refinement and optimization, and it ensures more effective marketing budget allocations, and that you're getting to those fine micro segments and really being able to convert in the conversation. But whilst having identified a key strength, it's important to note that influencer marketing is not a one-size-fits-all approach, Kevin, but rather it's a dynamic strategy that can and should be tailored to different audiences. And we also learn that brands that embrace influencer marketing as a part of their holistic marketing mix, combine it with other marketing strategies, and these brands definitely can create more of a comprehensive, fluid narrative that resonates with consumers across various touch points in the brand experience journey.
So in essence, are we saying that the influencer marketing is not dead, Craig?
Yeah, okay, Kevin, yes. And the article tells us this. It says that influencer marketing is actually evolving and that its key success lies in three particular points. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a one size fits all, and therefore, when you get under the skin, you'll see that it has specific value in specific areas, but you've got to approach it correctly. And the point one here is that influencers who invest their relationship with followers won't compromise on their integrity when it comes to brand partnerships. And it's about ensuring that the collaboration you're pitching feels natural and relevant to their world and to their audience. So again, it's not just about how you're using it to get to the end consumer, but it's about the relationship of the brand with the influencer as well. Point two is an influencer who can dream up new ideas in a brand that gives them the freedom to create will definitely break through the noise. So it's about actually giving some autonomy to the influencer whilst ensuring the influencer really is working within the tonality constraints and parameters of that particular brand. And that's a perfect combination in the approach to using influencers. Influencers know what drives the most engagements for them, Kevin, and they should therefore use the insights like the back of their hand, allow them to actually form the creative brief for the creative agencies as well. And for me, that's probably one of the most important points that stood out for me, because in many instances, brands are working with creative agencies, formulating briefs, putting the message, a matrix and the likes out there, and the influencers are needing to work to that. And that's where the inauthenticity and the structured conversation came from. But yeah, when you've got that trusted influencer as part of your brand DNA and part of your brand pillars, let that influencer come in and start shaping and formulating the brief with the creative agency. And then finally, point three here notes that the brand must establish their objectives early on and ensure that the success metrics reflect that objective. Start with the end in mind. What are you trying to measure? What does performance and success look like? And build that into the process. Influencers that can drive success, whether it's improving website traffic or driving new customer acquisition, must be part of that conversation. But it's important to be clear on what you're tracking and then selecting the influencers that are able to deliver against those objectives in your measuring metrics.
What's interesting about it, Craig, just on one on the first point that you mentioned is that it's quite unique when people are doing that, and you see people online. You see how they use a platform to build relationships with complete strangers.
Yes,
and it's almost like they spotlighting their lives in a mini format, right? And they just happen to have this brand with them. They just happen to be showcasing, well, this is why I use this shaving cream, or this is why. So, when you see it like that, and that's why, it's interesting to see how they are sort of helping predict what the scripting looks like, and what that narrative of the story is, because they're conveniently fitting certain brands into their lifestyle, and it becomes part of their language, their storytelling language.
And that Kevin, absolutely. When you find an influencer where that level integration of a product or experience is just so seamless into their existence, then it becomes more believable.
Absolutely. So while we see that influencers do still have a positive impact on brand engagement and consumption, surely there is evidence to challenge this perception.
Yeah, Kevin, very much so. But I just want to quickly throw the question back at you and say, you're hearing things. You use social commerce a lot. You use social media effectively, and you're coming across influencers frequently. What is the sense you're getting, and what are the telltales to think that there definitely is a downfall of influencers that you've experienced?
Well, Craig, it's almost like, it's not like I'm seeing, I'm not seeing less of the known influencers,
Okay.
but I'm certainly seeing more of people I don't know, people who are just Joe Soap on the street kind of thing, actively just using their platform to, have an opinion about something. And, it's almost, I want to call it the people's opinion. and people are actually kind of saying, and this is one of the conversations that I was paying attention to with the USA, trying to block TikTok from having, an opinion, because it's influencing politics, it's influencing decision making in such a magnificent way, in a way that politicians and governments are not anticipating.
Yes.
So people even have impact on what the narrative is within the climate of a country, based on who's connecting with them on a platform. So when you just see it like that, you're like random, innocent, normal Joseph kind of people on the street are having massive opinions about what's happening in the world. And the war in, for example, the war in the Ukraine, and the amount of backlash that the war of Ukraine is getting. And if you just go through TikTok and you start following some of because there's been journalists on TikTok being able to talk about it, that you're not getting people on the ground as journalists doing. And you're seeing it in real life. You're hearing it from real life bombing. And so, and I know that they've even been curbed off the platform, and they've been, that the posts have been deleted.
Wow.
Because then they repost the post saying, guys, I don't know how long this post is going to be up, but people keep taking down my posts, right? So when you see it in that context, you see that information is being shared in a way that it's never been shared before. And it doesn't need to be a paid ad for it to get out there. So people are becoming influencers in ways that they don't even anticipate.
Yeah, so anybody with the mobile handsets in their hand is a publisher at the end of the day, and has the opportunity to make or break a brand, make or break a story.
The underlying, I just want to say, Craig, the underlying theme here is it does mean that people have to be more responsible. You have to, as a brand, as someone putting information out there, you have to be more responsible, because at the end of the day, with your content in the wrong hands, or with your content, or saying the wrong thing, and somebody going, "Hey, did anyone notice this idiot this morning?"
Yes. Yes. Moderation being so critical in this regard. Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah. But just going back to the question, the article titled "The Downfall of Influencers" definitely addresses this side of the influencer equation, where, firstly, it was published as recently as the 19th of April on LinkedIn. It was written by Melanie Peng, who's a graduate student at the University of Texas at San Antonio. And the article opens with an interesting statement that says, "The age of social media has changed with the incoming generation, all leaning towards influencers for their trends, opinions, and purchase behavior. As the influencer community and marketing continue to grow, there's a shift of the downfall with oversaturation." Take note, oversaturation. And this oversaturation has led to losing authenticity, credibility, and genuine connection with audiences. And that's that change in strategy and approach that we were talking to earlier on. But there's a strong reference, whilst there's a strong reference to this aspect of the downfall due to oversaturation, we do have to acknowledge the likes of the impact that TikTok has had on the digital marketing world over the past 5 years or so. And obviously you've referenced TikTok a few times already in this conversation. It's unquestionably allowed a much larger number of people to become influencers, newsmakers, brand storytellers, Kevin. And in support of the fact, the article notes that influencer communities can actually grow a massive following, but differ from celebrities as they generate engagement with their viewers and shift to influencing others differently through a channel than celebrities do. And you referenced the Jenner story there. Yeah, that's very much hype around a celebrity, and there's a way and away from that. Whereas the engagement with real people, as we mentioned earlier on, is where the focus is. But did you know that there's 6 different tiers of influencer, Kevin? These being nano influencer, micro influencer, mid-tier influencer, macro, mega, and celebrity. It goes without saying that each tier has their own personalities and their own strategy to really work hard to engage with consumers in that particular environment.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you hear it in that context, nano, micro, mid-tier, macro, like when you see it, it's really true, because and it depends on what you're talking about and who the audience is. There's many layers to this, but just to see that there is some information out there that's showcasing that this is a real thing is quite interesting.
Yeah, and this plays nicely into a comment we had last week where we spoke about the micro targeting, micro audience segmentation. So when you get to those levels and tiers of understanding your finite audiences, there are influences that work in those bands as well, Kevin. But just quickly moving back to the oversaturation point, the article notes that both Gen Z and Gen Alpha grow up wanting to be influencers. Interesting fact that, and starting as early as 10 years old. And this has definitely led to this oversaturation proposition. And it has also impacted on eroding trust of consumers in this continuous shift in algorithms and social media platforms, Kevin.
Yeah, it's interesting, Craig.
So we note that the Gen Zers are growing up with social media, and they've definitely created this generation that is more in tune, to quote, with the tactics that are used in interruptive marketing and advertising techniques. So they're able to understand the proposition, they're able to work through the proposition, they're actually able to use it themselves when they become influencers in the smaller segments and communities they operate in. But many influencers have defaulted to creating content just for likes and engagement, and that still happens today. And therefore they're compromising the authenticity in the process of sponsored posts and partnerships. This definitely is exacerbated by the fact that there are no laws regulating influencer marketing, which I wasn't aware of, to tell the truth. And in the USA, the FTC does state, however, that endorsements need to be clearly labeled with terms like sponsored, paid partnership, ad, or promotion. And I am seeing that coming through in many areas. And I think it is, again, it's about self-regulation and just ensuring brands making sure that the brand is doing some self-regulation and moderation in the process as well. But influencers are somewhat disingenuous, as they do work around the regulation of posting content that is sponsored without disclosing it. And if they do, sometimes it's that fine print where it's not even noticeable unless you're looking for it, Kevin. And this definitely creates a big disconnection with consumers and brings in the mistrust aspect, and it leads to a shift in reliability, authenticity, and trustworthiness of influencers. And that's where you can see the conversation leads into the point that it leads to a demise. But probably one of the most obvious points of overgrowing of influencers has resulted in a huge amount of the same type and volume of content being posted, resulting in different social media platforms shifting their algorithms more often to generate views for different posts, as opposed to understanding the impact of that post on that audience in that time, instead of just picking up on this plethora of the same content that's actually not helping calibrate a brand's traction and performance. But Kevin, we note that TikTok recently included embedded photo slides into their platforms, and this was just a very clever way to generate many more views on the posts. And you've experienced this. They're also targeting the 1 minute plus videos. When Instagram first introduced Reels, there was an incentive for influencers to post more Reels instead of photos, again shifting the platform algorithms into the video format proposition and driving more engagement through that.
Craig, so is there a way forward in which influencers build trust again and create genuine connections with their audiences?
Yeah, Kevin, supposedly so. And the closing paragraph of the article does allude to this, and it notes that despite all the challenges that have been faced, influencer marketing is still growing and will continue to grow within the coming years, but it's refocusing on authenticity by creating genuine connections with audiences. So refocusing on authenticity by creating genuine connections with audiences. That's what all brands need to be doing, Kevin. So influencers can build a trusted relationship with their followers through the content and interactions that they actually have on social media. And as a result, their followers will view them as a trusted source of information and recommendation. And at the end of the day, obviously the brands that are associated with them will win. That's what they're looking for.
But I mean, through all the marketing that we've been discussing throughout this year, actually, authenticity has been one of the themes that's in every kind of branding. So it seems like we're done with the fake persona, kind of fake information, fake anything. We actually, as an audience watching a platform, we're actively seeking out something that's original, something that is. Someone pointed it out yesterday with a post from the Olympic swimmer who had a picture with someone, or an actual video where some random stranger walked up to the Olympic swimmer that won the gold medal and gave her 100 rand and said, "Go buy sweets." And they were talking about it on the news, and I was like, well, there we go. It's a typical South African, very original kind of content to share. But yeah, they're looking for that authentic kind of
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how to get this right, Craig? Because I think that's
Excuse me. Yeah, Kevin, there's a short article I came across titled 3 Tips for Working with Influence, Build Audience Trust. And that definitely gives some kind of approach on how to get this right. The article was written by Manuel Machado, who's a Forbes Council member, and was published on Forbes.com on the 1st of April this year. The article notes that when an influencer authentically endorses a product they believe in, they create trust based on their recommendations, which helps brands maintain a core group of consumers. And by partnering with influencers, you can tap into the existing followers, reach those who are likely to be interested in your product or service, and ultimately create that returning customer base. And the author, Emmanuel Machado, goes on to list 3 tips for working with influencers to strengthen the bond between the brand and the target demographic audience. And key here, Kevin, trust remains at the center of any activity, whilst ensuring that the brand's target audience feels seen and heard through all campaigns. And that's about dialogue and engagement. And the 3 points are noted as follows, starting with point 1. Partner with influencers who truly support your brand. Not just pay to use it, but truly support it. The first step is to find influencers who are aligned with your brand's core values, objectives, and audience, and have robust vetting processes that include identifying creators who can actually leverage certain keywords, topics, or hashtags that authentically relate to your brand's product or service. It's about understanding your competitors' behavior and then identifying who their target consumers are. And the key part of this process, is that this will help you create organic moments that are more natural and not forced, particularly when trying to win over the competitor audience. And then, finally, on point 1, it's always check the quality, tone, authenticity, and relevance of your influencers' content. So again, going back to brand controls, brand moderation, brand policing. Don't just hand it all over and let the influencer kill your brand in the process. The point is to encourage influencers to be themselves. And once you've identified that list of influencers that you'd like to partner with, focus on the most important aspects of your influencer campaign, that of messaging. And that's the ability to articulate the messaging and use it to get closer to the trusted audiences is really important, because that can help forge those relationships through the content that they've shared. And when an influencer recommends a product, it often carries more weight than a traditional advertisement. So work with the influencer, get that message matrix and tonality in place as well. And always remind your creators that they should tap into their own true personalities, as content will definitely resonate better with their followers while still hitting those key message points that they've helped build into the message matrix. And then the final point here is listen to your audiences. Always monitor the results across all social media channels where your influencers have posted content. And it's important to track insights such as impressions, views, engagements, clicks, and conversions. The key point to note is that you must monitor the impact of the content, Kevin. And the way to do it, scroll through all the content and conversations and read that honest feedback from followers. That'll allow you to understand how the content performed, what each person's perspective was, and it'll also give you a deeper insight and an ability to ask influencers for the feedback they've received to help you optimize your strategy and even possibly improve the product design and delivery. In closing, Kevin, influencers have become and still are indispensable allies for brands. They seek to forge genuine connections with their audiences of choice. I'm not hearing you.
You're not hearing me. Yes,
Here we
sorry.
go.
I love that. So, just just to re-mention those 3 points: partner with the influencers who are truly supporting in your brand, encouraging influencers to be themselves, and listen to your audience. And I think that's the point, because a lot of times I've noticed, and just by being online and seeing what people do, is people actively go back. And Gary V, obviously he's got a whole team of people that does this right now.
Genius, love the man.
And he goes back and he tries to answer every single comment that's ever made on any of his social media. So he chooses a platform, he works with a platform, but really, make sure that there's a response to, if anyone asks a question or anyone says anything, he goes back and has an opinion. So it's really interesting to see, and that's about, is influencer marketing dying? The quote for today, I was asking ChatGPT, like, hey, dude, find me a quote. So Max, which I've said, I told my ChatGPT to call himself Max. So Max says, true influence isn't about the number of followers, it's about the authenticity of your voice and the impact of your message, right?
Beautiful.
And I think Max might be listening in on our conversation or something.
That's great.
Craig, thank you so much. Please remember to like and share, and tune in for the Lunchtime series. 171 episodes of the Lunchtime Marketing as of today, and every week, Wednesday and Thursday, for myself and Craig. Have a fantastic week. Craig, thank you for the insights, and I will chat to you next week.
Yep. Have a good week ahead, Kevin. Thanks.
Cheers for now. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.